And we're back again
for
the Friday show. We're really bringing it around the world now, though, Josh. Truly around the world. We have our special guest from Australia. We got Ryan Bowen. And what is your name? I don't know you. You say that again? We didn't hear you.
Yeah. We got cars driving. We got rebels driving by that.
Oh man.
Jordan Davis is one of the other. He finished third at the Nationals in the under 80 kilos last year. So.
All right. Very nice. Very nice.
Very good. Obviously, strong guy then, right?
Yeah, underestimated, majorly underestimated on the Australian scene. So.
I see. So, very happy to have you guys on. It's awesome to talk to all types of people in the sport. I would imagine, I don't really know, Australia must be pretty young in the sport. How long have you guys been pulling?
Yeah, myself, I've been pulling since 2013. I ran a supplement store, and this table my dad built me. This is the first table my dad built, and we put it in my supplement store back in 2013, and I just started arm wrestling customers. That was where I got into it, and then I discovered the Australian Arm Wrestling Federation and went for there. So,
I started in 2014. My brother paid me $50 to come along to one of Ryan's trainings, and here I am.
There you go.
But as a sport as a whole in Australia, I think about the federation's been around. I think since 2011. I think their first nationals was in a car park in 2011. So it's come since then. I think we've got about 700 registered competitors in the history of the Australian Arm Wrestling Federation now. So it's grown a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good amount. That's a great amount of people for what most people probably would think is of a very young area for the sport. We were talking with Thomas in Chile, and he talked about the struggle of having a new area where there's not a lot of people to pull, and training is tough, and it's hard to find enough people to pull. Have you guys had any issues with that, or has it been just kind of a slow build and from right from the ground up?
Yeah, well, around Australia, there's obviously guys that are isolated, a couple of hours away from anyone else, so they rarely get to figure. Ryan and I are lucky. I live 5 minutes away. So
the Brisbane group as a whole, it's probably got about 20 or 30 pullers that pull at least once a week. So we've got a nice tight knit group. I know the Melbourne crew as well, the House of Pain. They've got a really good system down there with bringing in new guys. They're every week there's new faces down there. They've got an awesome club, and each state has kind of one major club that's really kicking goals. There are a few guys that live outside of the major cities in each state that do struggle to get the table time, but there's a good 6 clubs in Australia that are just doing really well at the moment. So it is growing. There is that challenge of always trying to bring in new people, but it's a sport. I know the Brisbane club. We occasionally get out there just in the parks and that in public areas, and people walking on by watching us arm wrestle will get quite intrigued and come up and want to group up. So it's not a bad way of getting new guys into the sport.
Yeah, and today, the way social media is too, you can really put yourself out there and get to know a lot of people. And, that's one thing that I'm not so great at. I'm on Facebook, but I'm really not there that much. I'm pretty bad. I'm really focused on training most of the time, or I'm just not on it that much. Josh is very good with it, which is,
I like that. I like that. It's like kind of a backhanded compliment right there. I'm training all the time, and Josh takes care of Facebook. That's good.
No.
I like that.
I didn't say that, Josh. You said that, Josh.
So let me ask you guys a question. How many people did you have at your nationals this year or last year?
2015, we probably averaged about 16 to 20 people per category. So
that's great. I mean, that's a good turnout. So you sending a team to Worlds?
Yeah, sending a team to Worlds. There's I think we've got 33 people that have registered as interested in going. Probably in reality, about a team of 20 will end up being able to afford to go to Bulgaria, but there'll absolutely be a team there. We loved Malaysia last year. We quickly got a reputation over there at Worlds as being the loudest bloody support crew there. We were he was pulling in, we were right up there, and we were just screaming, going nuts. So it was good.
Well, I think I mean, you guys have a great history in general with sports. I mean, obviously, you're going to know what I'm saying in the, Summer Olympics, for example. You guys are usually third in the medal count, even though you're far down in terms of overall population. So I think per capita, you probably have the most athletic group that turns up at the Olympics. So it sort of makes sense that you guys would have quick success in arm wrestling as well.
Yeah, we are a pretty proud sporting nation. I know. I certainly grew up as a kid just wanting to aspire to be an Olympian and a professional athlete in some capacity. And I think the competitive nature of Aussies, we don't like being mediocre. So we certainly do as a nation put in pretty hard. And getting to the top is something that is going to take a while in terms of getting up to the likes of Eastern European nations, Russia, Bulgaria, all those places that just unbelievably good arm wrestling nations, but we made an impact at Worlds, and people saw us as I think we were a lot better than people thought we were going to be. People thought we were going to just get cleaned up, and we had guys winning 3 and 4 rounds and going pretty deep into the main draw. So it was pretty good.
Are you guys going?
I've qualified. You've qualified.
I've qualified for juniors and seniors, so I might be pulling under 21s and seniors. Just got to find the funds to get over there. It's a long trip for us down here. So
for me, it depends what comes back from Andrew Lee's in the US at the moment. Going to hopefully talk to Steve Kaplan about WAL. If he comes back and tells me that WAL's on for next year, I'll be saving my pennies for that. But if WAL's not happening for Australia next year, then I'll hopefully be in Bulgaria.
Okay, yeah. I was going to ask you guys about the level of interest over there in the WAL, so I guess that's at least a partial answer.
Oh, it's huge.
It's huge. It's where I think Australia wants to go as a main effort. We think we see what the WAL is doing in terms of promoting the sport, and I think that would be a good fit for Australia for actually getting people to wake up and see that the sport exists. And I know personally, I look at the people in the WAL and just want to have a crack at them. I think I'm ready.
There you go. That's a
you
good
can't help it, right? You can't help it when you see them. You want to go up there and see what you can do with them.
Exactly.
So I assume, Ryan, you'd be aiming for the 165-pound class?
65. I walk around at about 82 kilos, so
that's a big cut for you.
It'll be a big cut.
6 kilos, right? Basically
15 pounds.
A fair bit of fat on me, so like the day that I know WAL's on, I'll stop eating sugar. I drink all that, so yeah.
He said that a lot, but
oh no, he's being outed by his teammate.
I've got to drop 86 kilos, so yeah, that's going to be fun.
Yeah.
65-pound class. I look at Justin Bishop and Luke Kent, and I reckon I can beat him.
Yeah, you really think so?
I love it. I love the confidence, man. That's a tall order, brother. Yeah, I think, I mean, those guys, those guys are obviously on everybody's radar. Everybody wants a shot at them. I mean, here in the States, it's the same thing that everybody's trying to get towards them. And, obviously Tony Kotowski is pretty impressive. And we have Giannis, so it's going to be amazing to watch. And, yeah, we talked about this in a number of shows about the WAL calling itself the World Arm Wrestling League and yet not being available to all countries yet. And, I mean, I'm glad they're adding in more regions year by year, but I mean, I almost feel like let's just open it up to everybody and see what happens. I mean, why do it in an incremental fashion like they are now?
I know that the Asia Pacific region has got some really good arm wrestlers. I haven't pulled the guys from Japan and China as yet, but all of Southeast Asia I have pulled, and there's some really dynamite pullers in Southeast Asia that are just as committed to the sport as anyone in Europe. In the US, so I know that they're ready to go as well. They're keen for it to happen. They might not be as loud on social as I am about it, but I know they want to crack. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what you do find out. All these, I mean, every country, we're all hungry for something. I mean, just because we don't have access all the time doesn't mean that we're not really, really out there trying hard. We just all have different access. It's just the way it is right now. But I do think, like we were saying with the, I think it'll be coming. I really do. I think they're going to be reaching out because I hear that a lot. I hear a lot of this needs to be open to the world, the whole world, and I think they'll listen. I do. I don't think it'll be that hard to get you guys to go over here.
guys think that Eastern Europe will get involved in WAL at any stage?
Personally, I think that you can't call it the World Arm Wrestling League until you do invite them, because they're the consensus best in a lot of the weight classes. I mean, the United States has some great guys in the heavier classes, but I think everybody agrees that those guys are the ones everyone needs to beat and to prove that they're number one. So I think if you don't include them, calling it the World Arm Wrestling League is not really a serious title.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. I think Eastern Europe are the benchmark for sure when it comes to technique and strength in that technique. They look like complete pullers, and I think so many of the non-Eastern European nations I see focusing so much more on just going for the pin, side pressure, and there's some really good athletes out there. But you watch an Eastern European puller, and they just look so technically sound and complete that they're the benchmark for sure.
Yeah, you're starting to see a lot of power and a lot of really solid technical pulling now. It's getting scary because they used to kind of know for a long time, they're really strong, but you can kind of out arm wrestle them a little bit. That's what people always thought. Now it's really not the case anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I was talking to Engen Terzi about it. I'm trying to get him on the show too, but he was saying, they used to train differently, and then John Brzezinski and guys came over and smashed everybody, so they reversed their training style so that they could start to beat the best from the United States, and now they are. So obviously what they've done has been successful. Let me ask you about that, because the Europeans are known for focusing on specified training for muscle groups rather than focusing on table time, which is, in general, more of what we do in the United States. Do you feel like you're focusing on one of those two areas in Australia, or does it vary via state, or what?
It definitely does vary via state. I know Jordan and myself, we very much focus on table time, but when we say table time, we're not just saying smashing it out, table time, go till your arms are sore. We're talking about analysing the small angles that are the most critical angles that give you the biggest leverage advantage over your opponent. So I'd prefer to become stronger on that than I would be on increasing my static hold in my arm, because I believe that movement there is going to be able to take away my opponent's access to power sooner. And that's, for me, my number one goal is to just block my access to power in every match, and then that's an easy pin from there on. So, but other states, I know that the House of Pain, they're incredibly strong guys. They love lifting heavy weights. They love getting aggressive in the gym, and they're pretty as well. So I know that there's a lot of paths to the top, but my personal belief is that the little angles in the hand are the most important ones to master. So we focus technique. Yeah.
How many days a week are you pulling on the table?
6.
John, you'd love to train with these guys,
yeah,
man. 6 days a week. See, that's like you.
That sounds really good.
I like twice. Twice is what I do. And I was doing more when John lived here, because I could always train with him twice a week in addition to everything else. But twice a week seems to be working for me, because I am mixing in some really heavy lifting now. But I'm really curious about everybody's approach, because, I guess like with most sports, there's not like one magic formula. So it's interesting to me to see how people are training. So you guys are in Queensland, right? That's where Brisbane is? So which of the states has the biggest and or best team in your opinion?
The biggest team, I'll concede and give the biggest team to the Melbourne crew, the House of Pain.
Yeah.
The best team, Brisbane by an absolute country mile. Trying not to be biased here. Literally, in the 80 kilo class, we got the top 5 ranked people in the 80. In the 90 kilo class, we got the top 3. In the under 100 kilo class, we could clean that up as well. In the heavies, we've got where our best heavy is ranked number 3. So in all honesty, we're dominating. We're dominating our
That's good. That's good.
And do you believe? You say you're dominating. Do you attribute that to the knowledge of technique rather than power, or is it just a good combination of both?
Early days, there was just a lot more passion up here. The group got a whole lot more regularly than else, so we set that foundation in conditioning in the early years a lot quicker than all the other states. And then since then, I know that Jordan and myself have really led a charge on our own personal methods of training, of gone completely focused to technique. And I think that's had a really good flow down effect to a lot of the guys in the club. A lot of the guys come to us now and say, hey, sharpen me up on trap technique, and you sharpen me up on my hook and my top roll. And we're starting to make people realize that, look, it's not about hooking and top rolling. It's about just blocking your opponent's access to power and gaining it yourself. And whether that means you're pulling inside or outside, it's just going to depend on what your opponent's doing. So there's, I think the flow down effect from that style of training is really coming to the front, and Queensland is starting to dominate every tournament that we go to now.
So what you're really saying by like to kind of clearly define blocking access of power, it's not necessarily always running away. That kind of just always kind of always back.
So,
it could just be just whatever your opponent does not want you to do.
If I get to the table, you just be a Jordan. Yeah. If I get to the table and I can feel my opponent posting and wanting to go outside, then I'm gonna crush down on his pronation. If I feel him looking to bury in off the go, then I'm gonna open up his hand. So I just will always go against whatever my opponent wants to do. So the better I get at that, the more subtle my setup's becoming, and the easier it is to feel where my opponent wants to go. And I just block them. If they want to go out, I'm going to take them in. If they want to go in, I'm going to take them out.
Yeah, I tell newer guys that a lot of the times when you're competing, there's really three guys at the table, right? There's you, your opponent, and the ref. And if you know what you're going to do and the other two don't, that's when we're talking about a good setup, right?
Yeah. So I love to the grip that I take as well. I love to float between a grip where I could hook or top roll from the same setup as well.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with the ref component as well. The ref plays a massive part, and I've heard other people talk about whether it's cheating or not. I think if you're good enough as an arm wrestler to deceive a ref whilst making your opponent look like the criminal, then you deserve to win. You deserve to.
It's part of the game,
That's a common philosophy here.
Yeah.
So I got someone asking a question online about, the rivalry between you guys in New Zealand, and how serious is it?
Oh, to be honest, I can't really see much of a rivalry between us. I mean, we're all great mates when they come up for Arnold's in Melbourne, and there's definitely quality guys down there, but when they come up, they find their place pretty quickly.
They've got a smaller crew than us. They're probably about 20 to 10% of what the Australian Arm Wrestling Federation is. They have a couple of real standout guys that are really strong. Big Matt in the heavyweights, super heavyweights. He's won the Arnold's a couple of years back, but the Aussies have reeled Big Matt in and got control of him over the last couple of years. And in the middleweights, there's a few guys that are always sort of finishing around 4th or 5th in the Australian scene.
Yeah.
And in the lightweights, you've got a fella Zurab. He's always right up there. He's technically good arm wrestler, just probably not quite enough power to take down myself and Grant and Jordan and the bigger sort of guys in the Aussie scene. But yeah, there's not much of a rivalry in the sense of a grudge match or anything like that. It's we're all working as one unit trying to promote the sport across the Tasman as well.
Very politically stated. Well done.
Yeah, and I mean, let's be honest too. Like, because I mean, me and Josh, we're from an area in the United States, New England, which is kind of like every 2 hours is a new state, right? So all that talk and all that competition and all that, it really just makes the area so much better. Because you're always, you're just always fighting, quote unquote, right? But you're always it really allows you to keep rolling the ball forward. Everybody lifts a little better in the gym when their buddy's next to them. It's just the way it goes. Everybody trains a little harder if there's somebody in their club that's in their weight class. It's just the way.
Queensland is. I'm constantly paying out the other states, saying that they're not good enough to take us on, just trying to bait them to come up here and try to beat me. So we're always got within the states. There's a lot of
banter.
A lot of banter and a lot of rivalry. It's really healthy rivalry at the end of the day. Like, I don't know if you guys saw, I had the super match with Murray Mackay the other week. The amount of banter that was between me and Murray, my goodness, it was almost embarrassing. But that's Murray. Murray loves it, so I was going to give it back to him. And that makes the match more interesting on the day, for sure.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, what John was saying is true. I mean, when he lived up here, I mean, the New England area, which is, 6 states And then if you include New York and Pennsylvania, it's still, I think it's all those states together are not as big as Queensland. It's been a while since I took geography, but I feel like Queensland is pretty big. But anyway, we got in that area we have Dave Chafee, Tim Bresnan, and Jerry Cataret, all within reasonable driving distance of one another. So any one of the three can show up at a tournament. Travis Bajan is also in that area as well. So it's just, it's amazing to be in an area where you have such a high level of talent. Now in my weight class, the 198s or the 90 kilos, Todd Hutchings and Rob Vigent, Mike Solaris, Storm Cholino are all within easy driving distance of me. So it's awesome to be around that kind of talent.
Unreal. That's the sort of talent that I'd love to be living close by to. So that's awesome.
It's very humbling. It's very humbling. Let me tell you, because you go over Rob Vigent's house and he's like, "Hey, check this out." He curls 100 pounds right in front of you, and you just sit there and scratch your head, basically, because you can't do it. You can't hardly lift the freaking thing off the ground. He's just curling it while he's talking on the phone,
Wow. Different level of power.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, you say you train on the table a lot, obviously. What do you do off the table? Is there much of anything? Does it kind of turn down the more you are on, or what?
If for some reason I can't get the table time, I pretty much just simulate the table time with super high reps, but with quite a light weight. This year I've just literally got a bike tire tube, and put my elbow on the table over my thumb and work my progression, work nation, whatever it might be. And this bad boy. So pretty feel at the top, just for your cupping, so letting that hang directly below.
Yeah.
But I don't personally really do much heavy lifting at all, and Jordan doesn't either. We always focus on the hand and the rotation of the forearm as well as our major. I really believe that the hand is a trump card to everything else that flows down the arm. Static hold, although it's incredibly important, to me it's not as important as being able to take away someone's hand. So if I can take away someone's hand, they're not even going to get to use their static hold. So I just keep training the hand.
Yeah,
it's an interesting. Sorry, John. It's interesting because I also did that for the first couple of years that I came back, and then I keep running into like the RVJ wall or the Mike Solaris wall or Storm Cholino wall. So I decided I better start working on some hardcore power because those guys are so far ahead in the strength department that I'm not going to catch up to them through technique alone because they're simply too strong regardless of which angle I try to exploit. They can easily catch you. And, most of those guys are relatively fast, too. And, like Mike Solaris has been arm wrestling for 20 years. So his technique level is also sky high. So, it's one of those constant questions. And I remember you were having a pretty long discussion / argument about it on Arm Wrestling Engen a couple months back, Ryan. And, I think Herman Stevens and Chris Gobby were chiming in and stuff. I thought it was a very interesting conversation, but I'm sure you noticed that most of the guys that are at the top level, at least in the States, definitely eventually fell back onto the fact that power training is incredibly important.
Yeah, I do remember the debate, and I do think that that the whole strength versus technique thing, people perhaps do misread a bit of the context. And when I say technique, obviously you do need to be strong, and you can't get away without it. But it's where I choose to be strong is I will, in my head, so far anyway, in my arm wrestling journey, I will always choose to be stronger than the arm. So if I could add another 2% to my hand versus 5% in my arm, I'd choose the 2% in my hand, sort of thing. Like when I come up against an arm wrestler who's just too strong for me across the park, and I can't feel their limit of power on anything, I always think the quickest path to me beating them is me catching them in the hand. I think it's easier to catch someone in the hand than it is to catch them in the arm. Like you say, RVJ might be curling 100 pounds. I'm so far off curling 100 pounds, it's not funny, but I reckon I'm a lot. And I reckon if you were to measure how close I am in my arm relative to how close I am in my hand would be a hell of a lot closer than my arm would be. So for me, the shortest path to catching and surpassing an opponent is to use the hand. And And the reason I think the hand is so important is because when I look at tournament arm wrestling, when I look at super matches, I don't want to get in wars with people. I think the way to win a tournament is to get through as unscathed as possible. And when I beat someone by taking away their access to power, the pin is just like nothing. It's just easy.
Right.
Acts on my arm at all. Where if I'm getting into big hook battles with people and muscling my way through, by the time I get to that final, I'm gassed and there's nothing left. So
yeah, and that's why I really wanted to clarify what you mean by taking away an access to power, because a lot of people, everybody looks through their own eyes, right? So somebody who's like, everything is all about hook, 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 they might say, he just wants to top roll me. And it's like, well, not necessarily if that's all you want to do. Someone's access to power might be, if all they can do is top roll, then you just smash down, right? And, let's be honest, if you're rowing back, using rotation, using hand strength in your lats, you're being more efficient.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're gonna be able to pull longer, more efficiently for a longer period of time, especially through a big tournament, right? So yeah, I mean, you have those hard matches when you have to, but if I don't have to, then why?
Why do it? Why give your opponent the more force? So I think it can even take it further and say that you get a whole lot less injuries if you arm wrestle with a hand focus. Anytime I see arm wrestlers get injured, it's either the shoulder or the elbow. It's very rarely up here in the wrist and hand. So, I know a lot of guys on that inner tendon connecting down there get really sore. And my advice is always to those guys, because it worked out for me, is just as soon as you start arm wrestling with your hand and lats instead of side press and putting that limb to its test, then you're starting to negate that risk of injury, and you're also rehabbing it quite significantly as well. So I think it's a safer form of arm wrestling for preventing long-term injury, and I believe that in the long run, once you develop the strength and conditioning, it's a superior way of arm wrestling as well. So
I generally agree with what you're saying. I mean, going back a couple of minutes when you're talking about if you're going to improve the strength of your hand versus your arm, that you would take the hand first. I agree with that statement. I also have, like you, I have a top roller type physique and I have a big hand. Like RVJ, for example, you probably don't know this, but before he was an arm wrestler, he was like a national champion grip strength guy. So his hand is actually probably stronger than his arm, if you can believe that. And I think that's why he's so dominant. John has mentioned a few times you can't go to straps with RVJ unless he wants you to. However, most people in the 198s here don't necessarily have a very strong hand. So I always feel like it's an advantage if you have, an iron grip like Bill Logsdon or something, because it's intimidating, first of all, when you grip up with someone and their hand is bigger and stronger. And secondly, I agree with you about the speed aspect of it. I think it's easier to win quick when you have dominating hand power than when you have dominating hook power or inside bicep power.
Yeah, absolutely. A strong hand is definitely intimidating, and I guess I clarify as to say, I know a heap of guys that can close grippers incredibly well.
Yeah.
That's quite weak hand rotation.
Yeah.
So I know I never trained with grippers. I did win the first 6 months of the sport. I was playing around with grippers, seeing what I could do, and I remember hearing John Brzenk say that he didn't really think much of grippers in terms of their practical application to arm wrestling. So from that moment on, I thought, oh yeah, look, fair enough. And then as I've analysed the biomechanics of the sport, I just think, that look, wrist flexion and the cup is probably the basis of everything hand, and then that rotation of the forearm and the wrist there is the critical combination to go with cup. So yeah, but sometimes I grip up with people's hands, and like there's a fella in Australia, Grant Tolentino. He's got the softest, smallest hand going around. It feels like this little girly hand, but my goodness, that man can cup hard. So the indicator of someone's hand strength and the hardness of the hand isn't necessarily, from in my experience, go hand in hand as well. So
yeah, and I personally, if someone really gets up to the table and squeezes my hand, to me, you just show me where the door was. I can feel your fingertips in the back of my hand. That's a horrible idea. And that's maybe just me tricking myself into feeling strong. But I mean, really, you just showed me like, oh, that's exactly where I'm going to go. And usually, if someone has strong enough fingers, they're going to come along for the ride because they're holding on hard.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that was my first 12 months of arm wrestling. I used to really fight for the grip quite a bit in the setup, and I've learned now that that's a waste of time. I'm very passive in the grip. I get my hand position, but then I maintain a static sort of hold, and I'll just float around wherever my opponent. If my opponent wants to drag me over his side of the table, I'll just go with him, and let the rest back. So it doesn't show my opponent anything. Then they don't know where I'm going off the go. So there's value in that for sure.
We got another question online asking if you guys do any, traditional gym time bench press, rows, that sort of thing.
No. Rehab only.
Yeah.
Rehab only, like
lightweight.
No,
I mean, I've got a part shoulder injury at the moment, so I do rear flies. But other than that, it's like kg, 2 kgs either arm, just rep out for about 100. And I'm like, great, got blood in the shoulder, all good, But no, we don't do bench press. I mean, I don't think we could.
I haven't bench pressed in 3 years.
Yeah.
We've got some dead balls out the back that we occasionally pick up, but
That's my.
So no, I would call myself a technique.
Yeah.
Mm. When you went to Worlds, where did you guys end up placing? Do you remember?
I placed 18th on the right and 21st on the left in a field of 35. I had my left had 2 wins, my right had 3 wins.
Mm-hmm.
I placed 5th in the under 21s, but it was a small class. It was only like 8 to 10 guys, and 6th on the left. But I lost to Georgy Tortiev, the Russian guy, fairly young. He's coming up too.
I think the matches I went down to, I forget their name, Russian fella. His hand just totally intimidated mine off the go. I could feel that I could go nowhere. His hand was just amazing. So
you lost to Oleg Zok on left.
Oh yeah, I lost to Oleg Zok on left. Did you guys see that match?
It's a pretty good loss.
To tell the story of that one, that was going to Worlds. I just was hoping that I was going to get Oleg Zok first round, and sure enough, there it is. Oleg Zok. And I said, like everybody else, I can guarantee everybody else, bar the guy in the final, laid down to Oleg Zok. And I said, no, I'm going to try to foul him out. I'm going to try to make Oleg foul twice. So first round, I got on the table. We slipped. I think Oleg got a shock that I was even bothering to try anything. So we slipped. And then we straps, and I just thought, I'm going to do a hammer curl hit as hard as I can. Did this big hammer curl, and sure enough, lifted his elbow up off the pad. That was one foul to Oleg. And round 2, Oleg just cranks his lats down so hard. I could feel everything. I'm like, holy shit, feel the power here. He goes to top roll me. I just dive into a flop press, and his elbow went from the center of the pad to about 1 centimeter from the edge. And I was like, I was 1 centimeter away from double fouling him. I probably would have been lynched out the back after it, but I would have made a good story.
It does frustrate me how frequently people lay down to certain athletes, especially in Eastern Europe and Russia. I mean, we probably have seen that in A1 where like Siplenkov and Pushkar will get a bunch of people just flopping over. Whereas, someone like Chafee or whoever else, people from other countries will have to fight their way up to the finals. I really am not a fan of that type of strategy. I feel like you should give everybody a good fight, even if they're going to smoke you. At least, doing something like you did, it's worth a try, right? You might be able to sneak out a win and meet him again in the finals.
Yeah. It is a difficult one, that one, because I mean, I haven't personally been in a scenario in a tournament where I've thought, no, the right move for me is to lay down to this guy and then try to come through the B draw or anything like that. But I do get why people do it if they're thinking out for their own self-interest. It's obviously, if they know they've got no chance. But in the spirit of the sport, the right thing to do is for everyone to have a crack no matter what, whether it's your best mate or not. But it makes it hard for people like Dave Chafee, as you say. It's just he's fighting an uphill battle right from the start. And I think I remember Michael Todd and John Brzezinski UAL8, where Brzenk had a much better run through and tied wars with Jerry Caderet, it makes a huge difference. And
Oh yeah, they actually changed. UAL changed their rules after that tournament to try to prevent that from happening again.
Is that right?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it ended up not mattering because they didn't really do another big event like that. But yeah, they were planning on if you purposely lay down. I mean, I don't know. That's kind of hard to determine whether someone's purposely laying down or not. But they were gonna forfeit. You're gonna kick you out of the tournament if you did it again. But I mean, I thought it was It was definitely clever of John because he knows how close Michael Todd and Jerry Caderet are, and also John and Caderet tend to have really long wars as well. So it was really a very brilliant strategic move in that part. So it's hard to fault him for that.
Yeah, John's always a master of winning a tournament, no matter what happens, isn't he? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very true. And like the laying down, like you said, if I'd have no chance, then why would I? If you have no chance, then you're probably going to lose pretty quick. I mean, like, I don't know. Yeah, the spirit of the tournament, the spirit of what we're doing, I do hate seeing people lay down, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Well, I mean, overseas, they call it an arm fight often, and we call it arm wrestling, but either way, it's a competition. So, you should at least try your best. You get knocked out, but at least you tried.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So, talking about Oleg and people like that, so yeah, let's talk about him for a second. So he's obviously the consensus best in your class. So when you think about trying to close the gap between someone like Oleg and yourself and the limitations you have with obviously we all have limitations with the people we train for. I mean, what's your strategy for trying to close that gap?
For me, the strategy is to arm wrestle him right. To be honest, putting the left and right hand aside, if I was trying to chase down Oleg, obviously that man's got hand control galore, and for reasons that he can probably obtain levels of hand control that I'll never be able to physiologically attain due to the size of his hand and the way that his muscles connect to his forearm and that. So for me, I would analyze his game and say what is he weakest to, and the technical move that he's weakest to, in my opinion, is a strong flop press. So not that I have a good strong flop press, but if I was to design myself to just beat Oleg Zoc over the years and try to train and catch the man, I'd be training a flop press. But
or some way of keeping your wrist and attacking that small little
yeah,
bicep.
Watching guys trying to supinate and get in on his bicep, he just kind of laughed at him and just rolled their hands open every time. So I mean, the low hand top roll is the easiest way to get on their bicep is the flop press and the strap. So, but look, I hate flop pressing. It hurts my wrist. I never really want to do it. But in answer to Oleg, that'd be it.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, he's literally a genetic anomaly. I mean, there's nobody around with his arm. I'm sure you saw the super match with he and Devin. I mean, Devin eventually figured it out, but it was not easy for him by any means, and it's just scary when you think about what his actual weight is. And Hellboy, the other guy, he just has a big right arm. He also is. I don't think he's as dominant by any means as Oleg is, but it's interesting that we have some people that have very unique anatomy in the sport too to mix things up. I wish I had that extra brachioradialis muscle, whatever it is he has on his left. Man, it's just I look at it, I just get jealous.
Grouping up with Oleg, it was an experience in itself. The most intimidating thing about his grip wasn't, in fact, the meat in his forearm. It was the width of his thumb and hand. When he coiled up like this, and I'm looking down the top of his thumb, the width from the back of his hand to the meat of his thumb was a good double mine. Like the size of his hand was just, you couldn't get around that bloody hand, and so it's so hard. Like you just virtually can't cup his hand at all. You've just got to rely on supination, diving in, and hoping that he can't get out there. That's what Yeah, you mentioned the match with Devin on him, and Devin got in with that raw sort of big supination. Reminded me of his match against Taras Ivakin, and it looked pretty red line in terms of what Devin could achieve. And I think even remembering back in that match, Oleg got a little bit unlucky with refs not calling pins and all sorts of stuff. So How you go about getting those sorts of hands? It's unfair. And the German fellow Hellboy, as you said, his right arm doesn't look the same when you put Oleg next to him, and Oleg's looks all striated and it looks like functional muscle, where
right.
Matthias Schultz's arm kind of just looks big. It doesn't necessarily strong.
Right. So you probably won't be surprised to hear that Chris Gobby is listening and has a couple questions for you.
Who?
We had him on Wednesday because he's got a super match coming up with Mr. John Brown right here, and they were very respectful to one another. But Chris, I watched the back and forth you guys had. I hope everybody had a chance to check that out because I always find it funny when Chris gets involved in commentary because you never know what he's going to say. But you guys, I think you briefly, threw back and forth the idea of coming over there and having a match with him, and I also believe that Devin sided with you in terms of who would win that. But he's specifically asking you if he cracks your rotator and isolates your 9-inch biceps, what is your plan from there?
Where to from there? The good thing about a super match is it is 5 rounds. So if Chris is good enough to crack my pronator and put me into a hook the first round and drag me down to the pad, then I'm going to deceive him in round 2, and I'm going to make him think I'm trying to do the same thing, and I'm going to take rotation leverage off him in the hook, and I'll stop him at his own game. So for me, it's all about that technical analysis. Again, look, I can hook, no dramas at all. I've beaten Australia's strongest man, Brian Phillips, who was an out-and-out hooker. He went on. Not only was he Australia's strongest man, but he went on to become national armor years in a row. And I pinned him in a hook, no dramas, just late last year. So I can hook, that's for sure. And I'm keen for a match with Chris. Being backed up by Devin certainly made my day that day because Chris was tearing me to shreds, and
yeah, he was.
Was getting in there as well, and everyone was ganging up on the little Aussie. But then, unfortunately, Devin came and rescued me, and that certainly made me feel like, yeah, look, I'm doing what I'm doing, and it's right. So I look at Devin and say, Devin's obviously been there, done there. He's gone through the whole path of becoming, going from amateur to elite, and we've had that opportunity where Devin's come out twice, and I've got to talk to Devin, and I think he understands the process that I'm going through. He understands the way I think in arm wrestling, and I'm trying to always reflect the way that Devin has progressed in the sport. So I think potentially he sees that in the way that I'm training and progressing, and therefore can make assumptions that, yeah, look, I'm doing well. And look, ultimately, I've gripped Devin, and he knows what my power level's at too. So if he wants $1,000 on me, then I'm not going to let him down.
Well, as John mentioned earlier, when you guys, haven't been known in the sport for a long time, it's kind of natural that people are going to try to test you out and see how thick your skin is. And I think, Devin coming out and standing up for you kind of shut the thread down to a certain extent because people obviously respect his opinions quite a bit. And it brings me to another question that was asked online here by Herman Stevens. He's curious if you guys have plans to, obviously you might be going to Bulgaria, but outside of that, do you have plans to travel to the States or to other places to get some time in with folks?
Yeah, look, absolutely. Look, as I mentioned, Herman, before, if WAL gives us a chance next year, we'll be there, bells and whistles for sure. But look, even if WAL doesn't get a chance next year, I want to go over there to the States and have a number of matches at least. I know I've private messaged and had a chat with Justin Bishop and Luke Kint, and both of those guys have said, look, they'd be happy to have an unofficial, but for all intensive purposes, 100% effort super match with me if I do come to the States. So they're the guys I love. Look, obviously, then I'd get around to every club that I could. I think that's one of the most exciting things about the sport, the fact that we can travel and just about any city in the world find arm wrestlers and grip up. I know that my wife would probably hate me for it, but 50% of our holiday would definitely be gripping up with arm wrestlers. So.
Well, you definitely be welcome here, man.
Going to Canada as well, doing the same sorts of things. So,
just got to find the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need a billionaire sponsor to fly us all around the world so we can all meet one another. I think that's the best way to handle it.
That's all it's going to take. It's easy.
As well, takes so bloody long to get from anywhere to Australia. So it's
Yeah,
not.
we all want to come down there, though. You know, Australia is one of those places in New Zealand that everybody wants to go, and we all plan on going for 2 or 3 weeks because of the distance, and it is from the for the East Coast, for example, it's like 24 hours of travel. So you're gonna come down and get a chance to visit every state, arm wrestle every team, try not to get eaten by great white sharks, that kind of stuff.
By snakes, spiders.
Yeah.
You guys have some awesome spiders, man. I know that. Funnel web spider, right? That's the big deadly guy.
Yeah, it'll kill you. It'll kill you for sure. But no, I think getting overseas and getting the chance to pull all the other clubs and look, I idolize a lot of the American arm wrestlers. I mean, I learnt the sport watching YouTube. My first 12 months in the sport, and watching YouTube videos. So, and I was just literally trying to mimic everyone I saw on YouTube, and until the sport finally started taking it. But so to get over there, grip everyone would be great. It'd be a real thrill. For sure.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Awesome.
I would. I'm here. I'll play you every day you're here. I don't care.
Believe me, if we make it over there, we'll pop by.
All right, I like that.
Yeah,
I
man.
like it.
Make sure you come to the East Coast too, man. There's a lot of fun stuff up here. And there's no alligators either, or crocodiles, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. Good.
All right, boys. We have to talk to some of our other guests here later on tonight. But hey, we really enjoyed having you on. We really appreciate you guys, taking your time out and coming on the show. We really appreciate it, man.
Yeah, I'd like to get you guys back on a show with Chris and Ryan, and we can all argue, because I don't know if you know it, but that's John's favorite thing is when people argue on the show. So we try to get as much of that in as we can.
Yeah. You just tell Chris to keep training that big static hold in that bicep of his. He's going to need it.
Will do.
All right, boys.
Thanks.
All right, thanks a lot, guys.
Well,
alrighty.
Those guys were fun.
Yeah, those guys are fun, man. I think Ryan gets a lot of crap sometimes online because he's not willing. He's very willing to express his opinion and discuss, how the sport's been going for him, and not everybody agrees with it. But he stands his ground, and a lot of the guys here don't necessarily agree, as I said. But I mean, I always think it turns out to be a productive conversation. I just think those guys are trying hard over there. They're going to get better. They're going to start making some noise.
Well, yeah, and I mean, like I was, kind of talked about the social media aspect, which is, it's just different now. People. Yeah. There's a lot of people that loved every day to come on the internet and talk to everybody all day long, post pictures and all that kind of stuff, and it's cool. But some people just don't. I find that people love it or they hate it. Right? Some people are just like, this is annoying. This is obnoxious. Is it really though? You don't really have to look at any of it, right? It's not like they're trying to. They're not hurting anything.
Actually, I mean, as everybody knows, social media is omnipresent these days, and it's easy, as you mentioned earlier, to get totally sucked into it. But I do find it to be an incredible source of information. I mean,
Yes.
I've learned a lot about how people train, just by being on Facebook. It's what gave us the idea of doing this show to begin with, is trying to increase the encyclopedia of arm wrestling knowledge, so we can, share with people, make the arm wrestling world smaller by basically using these tools that have been presented to us. I think it's more good than bad, in my opinion.
I think so too. I think the bad stuff that comes out of it is mostly created. I think it's an attitude more than a reality, right? I don't think there's a whole lot of people who are really ripping the sport down. It doesn't happen. Right. It's people who are reacting to, like, why is this guy talking about himself all the time? Or why is this guy talking all the time? If you don't like it, then what are you paying attention to it for? I don't know. It seems like there's a lot more energy you could put somewhere else.
Yep.
If you're upset.
Yeah, I agree. And, I appreciate the strong opinions. I mean,
right.
So we were talking about Chris and Herman, and they are both, as you know, we just were talking to Chris last night about this, very focused on increasing power. I mean, Todd Hutchings said the same thing. That's his primary thing. He pulls infrequently compared to a lot of people and just tries to get that, stone breaking power. Dave Chafee, although he pulls every week, he's, as he said, he lifts heavy every single day, different muscle groups. So I mean, people do different things, but it's hard to discount what they're saying, considering the level of success they've had on the world stage.
You have to listen to what they're saying. You have to take pieces of it, right? Everybody has their own way of doing it. Everybody has their own conditioning levels. Everybody has their own or their own pain tolerances. Some people can't do certain things just because they're not built to do those things. It's not a big deal. Doesn't mean you can't get better. Doesn't mean you can't get better than everybody else. Because you can. It's just the way it is. Hello?
Yes, I do. Let me just get that real quick for you here, John.
Yeah, we're just killing
We're
time,
going to be
folks.
talking to a couple of guys coming up. I don't know how many of you guys are aware or know Mike Cagle, but he recently got a pretty serious diagnosis of terminal cancer, which he's going to come on and talk to us about. So before he comes on, I just want to tell you that, Mike's really been struggling, and from what people are saying, he's not necessarily all there all the time. He's suffering from a little dementia, which is very typical of people that are, at that stage of cancer. So, we're going to talk to him. We're going to bring his friend John Woodel on too, and just see if we can get a little insight towards his experience and the way arm wrestlers have been reacting to him. They're doing a charity tournament as well. We're going to talk about that a little bit. But anyway, I just think it'll be interesting, for everybody to hear, what it's like for him going through the things that he's going through. And definitely feel free to call him, chat in with us, ask any questions you have of him. Don't be shy. And let's see if we get these cats on.
Yeah, he sounds like he's got a really cool story. I don't know the man, so, I mean, it's going to be really cool for me to learn about him, too. From what I understand, he has a very successful and rich history in the sport, too. I hear he's a he's an ex-world champ. So, I mean, that's all you need to hear. I mean, he's got something to. I'm sure he has some opinions and things to say on the sport. So, yeah, I just added him. So we'll see. I'll go ahead and call John though, because we got John Woodel coming on too from the PAL. I'll go ahead and give him a ringy dingy here, and we'll see how it goes, man.
And I'm curious about you guys listening. Where do you think we should go next? Like, so many countries in the world, so many regions. I'm curious if anybody has, like, those particular areas that you haven't heard a lot from that you might be interested in talking to. For me, it's like Southeast Asia comes up a lot. Japan, Korea, Vietnam, that area. They have a lot of pullers that do well and are very strong, but we really don't know them. We don't have exposure to them.
Hey, man.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going all right.
Did you get a hold of Big Mike yet?
Not yet. I added him on Skype here, and we figured we'd just call you and chat while we wait.
Oh, all right, not a problem. We got this cool little gadget, one of those Google Chromecasts. So,
oh, all right.
Yeah, you guys are on the big screen, and
well, you are now too.
That's exactly where we deserve to
be. Yeah, I'm getting that delayed echo.
Yeah, I usually I leave the window open, but I press pause so I don't confuse myself, because that's what would normally happen.
Right. I'm going upstairs. Yeah, I'm getting that little delayed reaction, so I'm headed to another room.
It's all good, man. Yeah, we're just, like we always say, it's, we're just figuring this stuff as we go.
That's the way with me.
Yeah, for the John, while we're waiting for Mike to come on, maybe you can tell everybody a little bit about him and why you guys thought it was important for Mike to come on.
Well, before me and my wife moved back down here to Arkansas, I was just getting back into the sport up in PA. And Big Mike had been friends with my wife, and they'd, talked back and forth. And when she mentioned that we were moving back to Arkansas, Big Mike, if you guys read his post, he loves everybody. And he invited us to practice and thought it was great. And I think he won his world before I even started pulling.
Right.
And so we moved back down here, and of course I got hooked up with Pete Mills and American Armfighter.
Sure.
And Big Mike walks into the tournament. He was actually here the night before. And just to meet him, he's larger than life. He's just outgoing, great guy. And it's just, we read the post, and it's
pretty brutal.
It was like,
It's
go
tough
ahead.
for you. I mean, I can hear it in your voice that it was really tough for you.
Well, the unique thing about, Big Mike has bone cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, probably 8-9 years ago, my grandmother passed away from bone cancer.
Oh, all right.
So it really hit home.
Mm-hmm.
And how everything actually, with the tournament, I was on the phone with Pete Mills about another event that I was going to do. And my wife she is all about arm wrestling, so I'm lucky there.
Right.
I mean, and she comes out and she said, we need to do something for Big Mike. Well, I mentioned it to Pete Mills, and he said, definitely, let's do it. Get a hold of Big Mike, see if it's okay with him. My wife messaged Big Mike, and he was honored. And so Pete said, well, set it up. And within, I'm going to say 2 hours, I had super matches set up. I mean, and just the response from people, as soon as I made the post, it was, overwhelming.
Just immediately.
Everybody.
Huh? That's awesome.
I mean, we got, and the first super match that I was told to set up, was Pete Mills. He said, I'm coming to this. I wouldn't miss it.
Right.
So, I mean, it's, and then we got some great super matches. I mean, just matches that people are really going to want to see.
Yeah, so who do you have?
Well, I'm going to be taking on Brian Kerner out of Kansas.
Okay.
That's going to be a good match. It's going to be a tough match. He just went to WAL regionals down in Texas and took his class.
Okay.
At 165. And so that's going to be a tough one. I've never pulled Brian after my tournament, which he qualified at. He got a hold of me and said, hey, we need to pull sometime. And I said, definitely.
Right.
And we decided to set this tournament up, and that's the first person I thought of. I said, hey, are you up for this? And he said, what arm? And, I said, how about left? Because he's going to Vegas the week before.
Okay.
And I'm a left-handed puller anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
I'm right-handed, but for some reason my left is my strong arm.
Gotcha.
I'm the same way, John. It's just one of those weird things. It makes no sense to me either.
And like I was just talking to Pete Mills yesterday, and we were just talking about body structure and some measurements, and he said, well, what did you do for work? Well, I've been 80% of my life, I've been a tree climber, a tree trimmer.
Okay. Well, there you go.
So everything was, I try and turn everything into a workout for arm wrestling. Whether it's, if I'm screwing screws into something, I don't want an electric screw gun. I want to turn them in.
Sure, I gotcha. Yeah, manual labor. We've had that conversation on this show before. People who work with their hands and really, they just seem to be a little better right off the bat. they just know what they've worked with their hands their whole life. There just seems to be something about that.
Yeah, I started out, way back. I got into the ADAU powerlifting with Al Siegel out of Pennsylvania. And, I was always looking for something, but I was always involved in arm wrestling one way or another. I think I started in 90. I went to my first tournament at a roller rink.
Gotcha.
And,
that's awesome.
a
roller rink, like, were people skating around you during it, or was it arm wrestling on roller skates, or both going on the same together?
Did it just so happen to be empty that day?
That'd have been something on
Seriously,
roller
that's
skates.
like a new sport, man. I've seen the videos of those guys doing MMA and arm wrestling at the same time. They try to arm wrestle and they punch each other. I think it'd be way better trying to roller skates.
Right?
Maybe we should set that up, man.
That would. Hey, you tell me when to be there.
So, John, do we find Mike here?
I think we have. I'm gonna go ahead and add him right now.
All right. I think we're gonna try to add Mike in here, John. So we're gonna try to put him on right. We should find out momentarily if it works.
Dialing right now.
When is this tournament, by the way, John? While we're waiting for him.
July 2nd.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, how you doing?
What's up,
Hey,
Mike?
Yes, sir.
Hey, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Man, it's no problem at all. It's my pleasure.
All right. If you look on, what are you using for a device to call us with, man?
I've got an iPhone 5.
All right. Is there a little camera button right there?
Yeah, I see you, and I see a gentleman above you.
All right. Do you see a little button on the lower left-hand side?
I only see a telephone button at the bottom.
Oh, okay.
I don't see any. It's just two pictures of y'all and the telephone.
All right.
That's
I never Skyped before, so this is my first time.
No worries,
And
man.
I'm all good with it. So
Cool, man.
I'm here to answer anything questions that you have or anything you want to talk about. Be great.
Great, man.
Excellent.
Well, first of
We'll
all,
go with the voice.
Yeah, we can hear you fine. It's a absolute pleasure to have you on. Peter reached out to me and Josh, told us a little bit about your story, and we just jumped right on it. I mean, it's
Yes, sir.
anything we can do for a fellow arm wrestler, especially. But go ahead and just tell us a little bit about yourself, Mike.
Well, in 1982 and 83, I became a world champion in California, and then once in Tacoma, Washington, in a super heavyweight. And I arm wrestled this is 1977, and at one time, beat 7 to 10 world champions from Petaluma.
Okay.
I've had my great years, and I went to the Over the Top movie, and I was in that program, and I've just been wrestling all my life. And the guys in California were all my great buddies, and we had some great experiences and great matches. And I wrestled in Vegas many times with the NFL football players and MLB, the Major League Baseball players. Not against them, but they had the tournaments along with the arm wrestling group.
Yeah.
And I've arm wrestled all over the world, all over the United States, I should say. And I wrestled in Reno where they had Jack. I can't remember his name now. He throws one every year for a national title, and I beat Johnny Walker. And not hardly anybody beat Johnny Walker in the in the '84. I beat Johnny Walker. I beat Rick Lardell, Kim Edwards.
Wow.
Clay Rosenkrantz. I beat John Woosley all on the same day.
You beat those guys?
So I really had a wonderful day, and I won $800 at the slot. So I mean, it was a good day for me. And as a tournament pro, I was in when I turned pro was in '84, and as an interesting career, and I've enjoyed it ever since. I took 20 years off when I moved to Arkansas, and then I got back with Michael Todd.
Okay.
And went to his tournaments, and became the Arkansas state champion. out of about 27 or 30 young men of 21 to 26 years old, and did that at about 50 years old. And it's been an exciting life. And I fought in Tough Man for 12 years. Tough Man is here in Arkansas and Little Rock, and I won in 07 as a 54-year-old. And I won the first place in Tough Man, and I got 6 second places. So I'm just basically an old arm wrestler that has the word never give up. And I don't ever give up. And out of my eyes, I'm still young, and I still pull as hard as I can. I'm still having a wonderful time doing it, and I enjoy teaching young men the ropes, and so they won't get hurt, basically.
Yep.
And any questions you have, you're welcome to ask them. You'll get me talking, and I won't be able to stop. So when it comes to arm wrestling, I'm pretty much have a pretty good vocabulary. Other than that, I don't talk a lot to anybody, but arm wrestling is a different game.
Well, I'll tell you, Mike, that's the whole point of the show, so you came to the right place.
Fantastic. Arm wrestling is my game, and it's been my game since 1977, and I've experienced about all tastes of everything there is to taste. And I'm a presser, I'm a natural presser, and inside presser, and then those guys are kind of extinct now.
Yes.
Everybody's pulling and dragging. And I'm still a presser. Well, there's no way I can change that now at 60 years old to go to a pool, because I just can't match these young boys. So I just chop them off. Like a block. When they start to pull and drag, I just chop away and hit them in the middle of forearm, and we go at it and see what happens.
Well, let me ask you, Mike. I assume you've been pulling that long and you developed a great press. Did you develop that press through wrist wrestling?
Well, actually, I arm wrestled with NAWA, with the National Arm Wrestling Association, and SCAWA, Southern California Arm Wrestling Association, for probably 10 years before I even went to Petaluma. Okay. So the press came from gentlemen like Ed Arnold.
Sure.
I don't know if you remember Ed Arnold.
Absolutely.
He was a presser. Bob Posey from Glendora was a presser. And Larry Siegfried Senior was a presser, and he basically kind of showed me the press, and I watched the guys press, and it worked so good, and my strength was in my triceps, so it worked real good for me. And I battled a guy named Limbrauer, the Bob Psycho Ezor, all the old school guys with the press, and it took a long time, but I finally was able to outpress their pulls and drags. And it took a long time to overcome, but I've had some great battles with some great men, and it's just been a wonderful arm wrestling career. And it's one of those things, it's so hard to retire, and I still enjoy it. If I can go in there and whoop a few boys, it's still wonderful to me.
Yeah, why would you retire? You're still strong.
It's, as long as I'm still placing in the top 3, which doesn't make me happy. But because I like to be, obviously everyone likes to be first, but right. I'll go into these PAL tournaments and these wall tournaments, and I place top 3 every time. So I'm beating a few good folks, and as long as I have an opportunity. See, I don't train anymore. I haven't trained in years, but I have that natural technique and the natural pretty good start. And it keeps me in the game with the young guys that don't know, and they're real strong, real broody, Barney boys. I can still get in on them and press on them, and they have a hard time getting me out of my press. If I can get in the press on anybody, usually I'm in the game.
That's awesome, man.
It's a wonderful thing, and like Michael Todd now, that's a different ball game.
Wow.
He's top of the world in his rank, and
sure. I
pulled him not too long ago over in Star City, Arkansas, and it wasn't very fun. It was like me pulling myself back in 1982.
Sure.
So it's a different world with the awesome guys of the world, but with the normal people of the world and the good amateurs and the not too awesome pros, I can still match up. I think it's going to be a interesting tournament come July 2nd, and they're honoring me in the most fabulous way in the world, as been in the arm wrestling sport, and shared my success in the sport with everybody I knew. It finally came back to me with Peter Mills, and Paul, Antonio, and I can't remember exactly what the names are right now. My names are not very good. But the guys from Powell have been really respectful.
Yeah.
And they've talked to a lot of people that I've known, and they've got everybody excited. So we're going to have a good time. I'm going to give it all I got and do whatever it takes to make it happen.
There you go, Mike. That's all you can do, man.
Yes, sir. And that's basically my plan is to go down there and pull in a super match. Whoever they won't tell me who it is I'm pulling, and it doesn't really matter.
Oh, John's
I like
laughing.
I'd like to stack up, say I'm pulling John Brzenk. Well, in the old days, yeah, I'm pulling John Brzenk. I beat John Brzenk in my day, and when I was up for the ride, I say, yeah, that'd be wonderful. I'll psych up for him, and we'll go at him with a plan. But I don't know who I'm pulling, so man, whoever shows up is going to get everything Mike Cagle's got.
There you go. I like that.
It's going to be exciting. I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be a wonderful event, and I'm really excited about it. And the guys have treated me with so much respect that it's a wonderful honor just to be able to show up and have a good time.
Well, yeah, we were talking with John before you came on, and he was speaking very highly of you and of the impact you had on him and his wife's life. If you're up for it, would you just share with us some of your illness maybe, and just give us a good idea of what we are celebrating?
We're celebrating. I had prostate cancer, and it spread to my pelvis, so I have bone cancer now. And I went through one chemo session already, and on Monday I go through another one. And so they've told me doctors aren't always right, and I'm a never give up person, and I don't quit. And they told me, hey, give me 24 months to live, and this and that. And they always go, it seems like the worst retrospect, but
sure.
I'm not going for it. It's going to take a whole lot more than that to take Big Mike down, because Big Mike's a fighter. I fought all my life, and I wrestle guys, 4 and 5 minutes in a match, and that's like hell all over again to be able to endure that. And this cancer thing so far has been a piece of cake so far. So I'm very, very happy with my life and what I've done in my life, and I've done some wonderful things and met some awesome people, and people that recognize me as what they're calling me a legend now, and it's just an awesome feeling. And the cancer's not going to beat me, and I'm going to go ahead with the 5 treatments of cancer. So all they can do is 5 treatments, and they're going to let it go, and we'll see what the Lord has in store for me. And I'm going to arm wrestle until when I can't do it anymore. And at this time, I'm physically well. I just lost some weight, so I went from 260 to 227, and which actually is a good thing as far as the way it makes me feel better and lighter on my feet. But I don't know how it's going to have an effect on my arm wrestling, but we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not afraid. I think it's going to be wonderful. I'm just really excited about John and his wife and every one of those people that are really putting a blessing on me and my family to honor me. Whatever happens to me, if I live 2 years, if I live 20 years, it's still an honor to be a part of the group that I'm with now.
Oh, of course.
And I'm really, really honored.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
John, this tournament, July 2nd, go ahead and just tell us a little bit about it, where it's going to be, what's going on, all that kind of stuff.
Sure. It's going to be July 2nd, and it's going to be in Rogers, Arkansas. It's going to be at the Harley-Davis Center there in Rogers, Arkansas. And they're going to have 5 or 6 super matches, and then they're going to have a regular tournament also, which I'm gonna do my best to pull them both. I'm going to pull a super match. If I survive that and with some integrity and some power, I'm going to enter if they have a master's class, I'm going to go in that, 40 and over.
All right.
Or even if I have to go on the young guys, I don't care. I'm just going to pull in the weight class, whatever weight class I match up in at the time. So it's going to be it's going to be awesome, man. I'm really excited about it, and I'm really revved up for it. I want to meet Peter Mills, which I may have met him 20 or 30 years ago, but I don't remember.
Sure.
But I'm excited about meeting these guys, and I know John, and I know the group that I've met at the last one I went to, and they were just they had a wonderful tournament. They had a great turnout. They had a awesome organization of the tournament, and everything was wonderful, and I really enjoyed it. So I'm really looking forward to this next one, and looking forward. I'm going to go July, so you know, June 25th. I'm going to pull, and Michael Todd's got a tournament for some kind of WAF organization in Hot Springs. So I'll use that as a tune-up and give me an idea of where my body is and how I'm pressing, how I'm pulling, how I'm feeling, and see what I'm going to be able to. That'll give me an idea of how I'm going to feel on July 2nd, I believe.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go down there for a tune-up, just pull those young men and give them all I got, and maybe things will come out my way.
Sounds good, man.
I've got God on my side, so I've got a lot of help, and the Lord is really good to me, and I'm going to keep believing in the Lord and the power of the Lord, and I believe with the power of the Lord, it's hard to get defeated one way or the other, win or lose. I'm still going to have a wonderful time.
Well, Mike, I think you have an amazingly positive attitude, and I think that, you know, you're inspiring a lot of people right now. There's a whole bunch of questions coming in online of just people listening to you and wishing you well. Sure. And I think that your attitude is inspiring people right here in front of us. I can tell by these questions and things they're saying, you know, that you're a remarkable person and God bless you. And
thank you so much.
Comments like that. I got a couple of people reaching out with articles they want to send you about some chemotherapy advice and stuff like that. So I'll share that with you. And
all that stuff helps me. Yes, sir.
And we have a whole bunch of questions about the press because we don't get to talk to a lot of people that are good at it. So
that's true. Yes, sir. That's right. It's kind of an extinct move. People, it's like a dinosaur move, but it still works real well if you use it right. If you hit the press right, it can negate the pull or the drag, either one, before they even get started in their pool.
I agree.
You have them on the pad.
Yeah.
So what kind of press do you use, Mike? I mean, I got a question from Craig Ruiz about, I mean, using a flop wrist or using the strong wrist bent press? What type are you using?
What I use is a soft as I can let them to allow me on the load. And I use a quick, as fast as possible, forward press, not a pivot and turn press, a forward press to get them in my hook. And when I'm in my hook, it usually is actually a tricep press. And the tricep is what I use the most of with my forearm. Obviously, when the match goes on, if it doesn't work completely like I want it to, then the forearm gets the pressure, and that's where my power's at.
Right.
Okay.
And I've got great tendon strength and forearm strength and hand strength. I've got real big hands. And if I get in a bind, I can go to the pool. I beat a 320-pounder at the last tournament that was supposed to win the whole tournament, and I flashed him with a pull. Gotcha. And I'm not a puller, but I thought, you know what, this guy's so strong inside. I hit him the first time inside on the press, and he was kind of pulling me up a little. I said, well, you know what? And then he put his elbow up and fouled. They started it over. Then I went to the outside. I said, well, it's worth a shot. I went outside, popped his wrist, straight to the pad. It was wonderful. So not having an idea of, I used to do that in the old days. Every once in a while when I feel a wrist that wasn't capable of holding, you pop that wrist if you have to. But I am a genuine presser, there's no doubt.
Mm-hmm. There's a gentleman.
Yes, sir.
He's by the name of John Bailey, who's relatively new to the sport, but he was at Nationals this year, and he's developing his own press. He's really curious about if there are certain techniques or exercises that you use to help strengthen it.
Yes, sir. The exercise that I did originally to strengthen my press was massive tricep work and tremendous amount of wrist curls I would do probably, I'd take this is relatively 75 pound or 50 pounds and do as many wrist curls as I could actually do wrist curls. And then I would take my other hand, put it over my fist and do about 100 or 200 more, which would pump the blood into the forearm. And my forearms, it makes your forearms grow, which the forearms are real hard to grow. It's a hard muscle to grow. And just press and push blood all up into your forearm, so you have the jam effect. When they jam into you, they jam down into your forearm, pulls into your power, and then the press is just a tricep rocking movement of the body. It's just a wonderful thing. You don't have to press them with your arm. You press them with your upper body.
Right.
And when you arm wrestle an arm against the upper body, you have quite an advantage if you put it in the right position. As long as you don't let your arm and wrist get beyond the shoulder, then that's an injury-prone position. You keep your body in front without touching your chest or shoulder.
Right.
It's a powerful position. So that's how I do it, and that's what I did was a lot of wrist curls and a lot of tricep push downs. Everything to do with tricep power is press power. If you have tricep power, you have lots of potential of press power. And I gave all my credit to the triceps in my forearm. And I have a pretty strong hand, not as strong as a lot of the folks, but it's sufficient enough to make my wrist curl and hook, because the guys are pulling around the wrist, and I have to overcome that with a press and hook. Once I get the hook, then I'm in the game. Other than that, if they flop the wrist, then I'm just like everybody else. I'm just a flopping wrist guy, and that's no fun at all. But that's the kind of guys that want to get away from you and slip away from you and get the glove. And I'm not very good in the glove, or not. I call it the glove. In the '70s, they had the glove.
Right.
Now they have the strap.
Yeah.
I'm not real good in the strap. It doesn't give me a chance to pronate my fist and rotate my. I rotate and pronate. I leave it real loose on the edge, and I pronate and rotate. And you can't do that with the strap. It's pretty much a man's game with the strap, and it's I'm not real fond of it. I'm not telling anybody any of my weaknesses, but it's one of them, and that's just the way it is. You get me in the strap, and you probably got the game. You know what I'm saying? But I'm not going to go to the strap. If I get my shot at a hook, and I hook you, then you're going to have to go through me, all.
Right.
But otherwise, my press is pretty simple, but it's something I've been with for 40 years. Pressed everybody's wondering why. Well, why don't you change? Well, it's too late to change at 60 years old and become a dead puller or a dead dragger, they call it.
Sure.
Because the guys like Brzezink's been doing that forever.
Right.
And guys like Todd's been doing that forever. And Todd's a good presser, too. But I'm so amazed why Todd doesn't use it more in the big guys, because he works so hard at a down load like he does. He goes down low on the table, does all that rigmarole, whatever it is, and it works for him. But man, it looks like it's so much easier to see him press guys and just pop them and be done within a second or two. And I believe he can do that to the biggest men in the world if he was to use it. But
we lose you,
I think
Mike?
I lost.
Well,
I can
back,
hear
he
you.
was on a roll. He was on a roll there, man. I want to hear the rest of what he was saying.
He was
Trying
doing
to
so
calm down.
well. He broke Skype.
He broke Skype, man. This guy's an encyclopedia of arm wrestling right here. We're gonna try to call him back.
I told you, he is just awesome.
I'll get him back here.
Yeah, we'll get him back. Yeah, I mean, as soon as he started talking about the press, we got flooded with these questions. Oh, how does he do this? How does he train for this? How does he deal with the tendonitis? What's the best counter, et cetera, et cetera. So it's like he's spawned a little fire on here.
Kind of a hint onto what he was saying. We're still in the process of trying to get the venue.
Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
It's not, it hasn't been signed. We're waiting on a final approval for that.
Okay.
That's where we hope it's going to be, because it would be great.
Yeah.
But we should have an answer by Monday.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, let's talk about let's talk about something we do know. He said, he mentioned there's going to be a tournament. What are the weight classes for that tournament?
We're going to run. We're going to run PAL weight classes, American Armfighter.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not a qualifier. So
right.
We're dropping, Pete Mills and I discussed it. We're going to drop to 25 an arm for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
And honestly, it's not even that we drop the price of it.
Yep.
Or the weight classes are the same as a qual. It's for the purpose.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
I've been in contact. I mean, another super match that's on the card is Bill Logston's coming down from Missouri.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we put it up. Who wants to go, you know, best of 6 against Bill Logston? And, you know, just the responses that we got were just crazy.
Yeah.
Well, I have a guy I've been friends with for quite a while. Really wanted to make it to my last tournament, couldn't make it. He said he's coming to this one. He'd pull Bill. So Steve Baldwin's coming from Wisconsin.
Okay.
You know, that's what makes me happy about the whole tournament. You know, Steve Baldwin is going to get off work, start driving down. It's a 12-hour drive. You know, he's going to stop, spend the night, drive the rest of the way the next day.
Yeah.
You know, we have Pete Mills coming.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
I'll tell you something, John. Just in that short period of time we were just talking to Mike, I mean, I think it's easy for John and I to see why people would want to come out and support him. He's a very engaging and intelligent person. Obviously he knows a great deal about arm wrestling, and he just seems like, you know, he's the kind of guy you want to talk to, and the kind of guy you want to hang around with. So, I mean, it makes total sense to me that you're getting the kind of response that you are.
Yeah.
And, I mean, I would love to, you know, if we can do anything to help spread the word on it and see if we can get, you know, more people out for that tournament. I mean, that would be awesome, because I think it's obviously a great cause, and Mike's going to have I'm sure he's going to have some tough days ahead. And, you know, if we can find some way to, like, financially support him so make him a little bit more comfortable during the chemotherapy, then that's something I think everybody would love to try to help in.
Yeah.
You know, and something in what he was saying about, you know, the doctors giving him, you know, 3-4 months. You know, I heard the same diagnosis. And just to prove, you know, Big Mike's a fighter.
Right.
I mean, you guys can tell that. My grandmother, they gave her the same diagnosis, you know, 3 months.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
My grandmother made it 2.5 years because she fought.
Right.
She, you know, when they said she was going to be in a wheelchair, she said, bullshit. She said, give me a walker because John's going to help me walk. And I'm like, am I?
Right.
But, I mean, that and that man, what you hear is exactly what he's like in person. Night before my tournament here, you know, I did early weigh-ins, and nobody knew. I set the weigh-ins up for 7 o'clock. So I work until 6.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then I have to run 20 minutes to the airport to pick up Anthony Laterio. So we're trying to hurry back, and we get back, and there's Big Mike. There was no handshake. He walks up, hugs you. How's it going, brother? I mean, just an awesome, awesome guy. And, you know, by the time we got to his weight class, because we did have, you know, quite a few entries. So by the time we got to his weight class, he'd come up, and, you know, it was always, yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, I have never seen a more respectful bowler.
Mm-hmm.
Even with the refs. Mike, I need you to straighten your hand. Yes, sir. I mean, who does that anymore?
It definitely comes out talking to him. I mean, it's clear that this is someone that people would rally around. So, as I said, it doesn't surprise me getting the response that you are. I think, you know, John and I were just trying to call him back. I think his phone may have died, but I would really love to get him back on here sometime soon so we could continue chatting with him about this stuff, because I think people would love to hear it. And I think just his story is also motivational, and I think that there's a lot of people around the country and obviously the world struggling with cancer, and all of us have lost loved ones to various types of cancer.
Oh,
so it's
right.
it's a story that we can all that resonates with all of us to a certain extent. So I mean, it would be great if we could try to do this again soon, before the tournament, so we can try to get some more interest going for you and get the numbers up. So I think we should try to do that, John. I think we should talk again offline later on and try to get him you guys back on here sometime soon, so we can continue this discussion.
Yes,
definitely.
Yeah. We'll definitely continue this. And me and Josh will absolutely put up any promotion you guys want for that tournament up on the website, also on the Facebook page.
Well, I appreciate it, because honestly, Pete and I were just talking about this the other day. I mean, you guys know the reason Pete Mills has no hair is because of me. I call him so much, he's got to be pulling it out. I mean, it was, so we were talking, and I mean, it's the way PAL is, I love it. I mean, and as long as Pete Mills wants me with the organization, I mean, I'm there. Pete's a close friend. We become good friends. I mean, there's a bunch of other stuff that we're working on. I mean, it's just great. And I mean, it just goes to show, hey, we got to do something for Big Mike. And, Pete, there was no hesitation. It was just set it up. We have 6 super matches. I mean, it's just Big Mike's dying to know who he's pulling, but I just can't. I mean,
well, I'll tell you
honestly,
what, if we get you guys back on, you can announce it on the show and surprise them in person.
Well, it's the person that he's going against, and I talk every day also, and it's going to be one of those things that there's going to be nobody sitting down.
That sounds fun, man.
We changed that up. They're going to pull a best of 3. We have to go 3.
Mm-hmm.
And but it's one for the books, definitely.
Excellent. Well, man, we greatly appreciate you guys coming on here, man. And like I said, we're serious about trying to get Mike back on here to continue the discussion. So we'll reach out to him after we're done here in a few minutes, and we'll see if we can get you guys back on, because I think people want to hear what he has to say, and again, we'd love to support the tournament. So I mean, we'd just like to honestly thank you, John, for bringing this opportunity to us and giving us a chance to meet Mike, because it was really thrilling, even though we only talked to him for a short period of time. So yeah, we'll definitely do what we can, and we'll talk again offline and get him back on the show, and we'll go from there.
Definitely, and we appreciate you guys having us on. Letting us spread the word about the tournament. I mean, I wish you guys were closer, but me and John Brown will meet up here down the road.
Awesome.
Oh, yeah, for sure, no doubt about it.
Thanks very much, man. And then tell
thank
Mike
you.
Thanks for us again. You got it, brother.
I'll talk to you later.
All right, my friend.
Okay, man.
Peace.
All right, bye.
All right, everybody.
Till next time.